job.
The December 15th meeting of the Open Space and Ecology Committee is called to order.
You guys slam the gavel. Makes me feel bad.
It feels a lot better that way. And see, that's what brings the agenda up. That's great.
Almost like a glitch.
Maybe if is this the mouse clicker? That would be horrible. Alrighty, so first up we have adoption of the agenda. Are there any agenda items or items on the agenda which people would like to discuss? Or shall we move to adopt?
I have a couple small items, but I think they can be done under chair and committee member matters.
Perfect. Anyone else?
Let's scoot over.
Yours got on?
Yeah,
I think so.
Megan's not coming.
Number 6 and then under number 9.
Perfect. We have a motion to adopt.
I'll give you a motion.
All right.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion. The motion is carried. Any oral communications from the? It's Glenn.
Paul, did you want to go into oral communications? And
Whatever you thought was most appropriate.
I think you should come and tell why you're here, and then maybe we can figure out where we're going to put it.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Paul. Welcome. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much. Hi.
Good evening, Open Space and Ecology Committee. Paul Buscal, Brisbane resident. So, I'm here tonight to present to you some information that I've received that I'd like to share with you when we get a chance concerning the Brisbane acres and possible threats to the acres as they stand today. So I wanted to take some time with the Open Space Ecology Committee to share with you what I have.
Excellent. Would love to have that. Should we do it now or put it into the agenda? Is it?
Well, there's an item in the agenda under staff updates, Brisbane Acres Open Space Preservation Concern. And then also we have item number 6, discuss concerns with the 2001 Open Space Plan. So it could go in either spot.
Will that work for you, Paul?
However you like.
Yeah.
I suggest we might want to change the order because that's quite a ways through our meeting, and we will be keeping Paul here till fairly late.
Yeah, well, we've already adopted the agenda, so I don't think we should reorder the agenda.
Well, we could.
Okay.
Still
I mean,
can't.
how do you guys feel about that? I don't have an objection to it, but I want to do it with a group consensus or.
Well, if we put them in now,
Yeah.
then we can discuss what we had to say later.
Yeah.
That is a
Great idea.
pregnant idea. All right.
And I might hang around, wait for that.
Make sure we're not talking behind your back.
Yeah, I will hang around. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So, as I said, I'm Paul Buscal, Brisbane resident, and I'm here tonight to share with you some concerns, not only as a resident of Brisbane, but as a member of Sambor Mountain Watch. We have concerns regarding the Brisbane Acres. First off, the Brisbane Acres are in the open space plan as high priority areas within Brisbane's boundaries to preserve. And over the years, Brisbane has purchased close to 50 acres, or I should say acquired close to 50 acres through different mechanisms. Some of those mechanisms were funds from the Coastal Conservancy as well as the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. City purchased outright acres with public funds, as well as I know one of the acres was donated through Sambor Mountain Watch, which was acquired through a lawsuit that we had won. The word open space in the open space plan and in general has no bearing in protecting properties. The word open space just means public property. In the deeds and the restrictions on the deeds and the allotments by the Coastal Conservancy as well as U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they have provisions that any legislative body, meaning the city council or planning commission, could change the distinction of these properties. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as the Coastal Conservancy funds, could be repaid, and those lands could be done with whatever that legislative body decides. Okay, so I'm very concerned with that. I'm also concerned that parcels, I believe 4 parcels have Brisbane Water Department ownership, and one of those parcels is at the highest part of those parcels, directly adjacent to the county parks system. Most of these parcels are right up against the county park system. Okay. At some past meetings, I talked about conservation easements, and I was told by Fred Smith that those are generally more geared towards agricultural lands, farmlands, and so on, when in fact they do include habitat, grasslands, prairies, watersheds, and other valuable habitat. But keep in mind that the term open space does not protect these lands, okay? So, the California Conservation Easement Department right now isn't funding any acquisitions because of the situation they're in, but I got information through the California Council of Land Trust, and that's in front of you. And so I just wanted to, this is like the ultimate authority when it comes to how they perceive these lands and what should be done with them. So I want to read to you the conservation basics, if you don't mind me reading the whole, what it entails here.
Please.
At its simplest, land conservation is an action to permanently conserve the natural, scenic, agricultural, historical, forested, or open space character or uses of real property. It can include water resources as well. There are no limitations on the type of land. It may be in dense urban settings, remote rural lands, or anywhere in between. The essential element is that it must have one or more of these characteristics or uses, which our lands do, the Brisbane Acres, and others around Brisbane. Many landowners take steps to responsibly steward their land so that the important resources are conserved. These landowners are to be celebrated because their work is a gift to all Californians. Sadly, their work can be undone by a subsequent owner or by condemnation by a public agency who wants to use land for other purposes. So that relates to what I was saying about how these funders see how these lands can be dealt with, as well as the limitations within the deeds. Okay, and so it goes on to say the term land conservation is commonly used to distinguish those specific actions that provide legal protections so that the resources are not damaged or lost to future actions. These legal protections will endure beyond any single landowner. Land can be conserved in several different ways. The method used to determine by conservation goals for the property, the landowner's preferences, and available funding. The two most common methods is that the property is conveyed in its entirety, i.e. fee title, to a land trust, and I have information on that, or a public agency, or a conservation easement is conveyed to a land trust or public agency. In California, a fee title or conservation easement is often sold so that the landowner receives funds, but the fee title easements can also be donated for significant tax benefits, or there can be a mix of the sale and donation, known as a bargain sale. Anything that I just read could be possible in the Brisbane Acres. I spoke with Trust for Public Lands, I'm waiting to get definite information that I could have brought to you, but it's been weeks of back and forth with them trying to get the right person to not make a commitment, but to have something I could present. And Trust for Public Lands, just like the Peninsula Open Space Trust, which is somebody that I originally was trying to coordinate with, seemed to be most receptive. And everything that the acres come with, the fact that they're within a county park system, the fact that they're already paid for with public and other funds, it's imperative that we protect these properties with their rightful determination, and open space does not serve these properties. I know that these properties have been purchased with the intent to protect them, but to truly protect them, we need to create this mechanism. So I would hope that the Open Space and Ecology Committee could work on this. I know that the bakery sale of public land, more importantly, natural habitat, basically open space, which is publicly owned. The funds, I believe, are $350,000. I believe that $50,000 of that was earmarked for trails and other studies to be done within Crocker Industrial and other areas on the mountain, I believe. And if that's so, that means there's $300,000 that should go back into purchasing either properties or possibly using some of those funds to come up with a solution to what we could do there. And, like I said, it's really important. I mean, there were properties on Summer Mountain within the acres that had a lesser value, according to the city of Brisbane, which, when you have trade-offs, some areas with the density transfer in mind, if you're familiar with the density transfer, that gave people the opportunity that owned acres. If they sold those acres, which were more prime habitat, meaning closer to the parks and, a real viable habitat, they would be given the offer to double their density on lower, deemed to be of lesser value, when in fact that was just an option to protect the most pristine areas further into the heart of the habitat. The Trust for Public Lands could actually take those parcels and hold them, just like we had parcels on the Daly City Dunes that was a combination of funding and tax breaks. We had 3.5 acres donated to Mountain Watch, which is a rare sand dune on San Diego Mountain with rare and endangered federally listed plants, just like we have federally listed plants and butterflies on San Diego Mountain in the acres. And we transferred that into the county park system. And one of the things that made the county park system receptive to the acceptance of these properties was the fact that they were adjacent to the parklands. And, these contiguous areas of land, while a good portion of the acres are right adjacent to the parklands, it could be incorporated. These land trusts could actually hold these in a trust until there was true determination as to what to do with the land. There's also something I didn't have tonight. That's the Williamson Act that also has some protections for lands for like 10 years until you made a decision. So, maybe not as drastic as transferring the lands, but we need to have some protections for these properties. I personally saw the same type of things happening on the Northeast Ridge, and, there could be a future Southeast Ridge in Brisbane in these acres. So one of the things that these land trusts could do are purchase those other acres that are lower adjacent to town that might not be looked at right now through the city of Brisbane as prime habitat. So I just wanted to share that with you tonight, and I appreciate your serving the community in the capacity you do and the difference that you make. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you,
That's
Paul.
really great information. I'd like to actually open it up to the rest of the committee. I have a couple questions as well, but if other people have questions first.
Yeah, is there any way that you could be a little bit more specific about the threats that you're seeing? Because we actually just last month had our meeting with the council liaisons, and the issue of acres came up. And we got quite a lot of reassurance that they were safe. So I was just wondering, is there something we should know about of a specific nature?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, there is.
Okay.
So, and people like Fred Smith and others that have responded to my inquiries are correct to say that in the deeds, they are listed as open space. And in their understanding, that means that they're protected. But everything that I've learned to date, it doesn't mean they're protected. And the fact that there are allowances on the restrictions as to what can be done with that, but also that legislative bodies, meaning a new city council, could determine to create something else there. And all they have to do is pay back the funds to the funders that purchased the properties. So the fact that there are those allowances create a opportunity for something to be different than it's stated. And when Mountain Watch in particular has inquired through the city to have each one of the deeds so we can validate our concerns, and I'm sure that, well, all I can say is the ones that I have seen, which are a few, have these indicators that things could be different. So when we've asked for information on the acres, we were told that there are like 50 of them and they are in storage and could be difficult to obtain. And, part of that funding through the city could be just something on the computer doing a check on the county's records because it's public information. So does that?
Yeah.
So I think there are two problems. One is, I think what Paul is pointing out, that the acres that currently...
Your mic's not on.
Your mic on? Yeah. I think there are two problems. The first one is, which Paul spoke really well about the acres that the city currently owns, that are part of the open space plan, that these acres could be at some point sold or used for something, for development. But I think that the second problem is, which Paul touched on, is that there is this area, the so-called lower acres, which we spoke about in the last meeting, which I think Karen confirmed is not part of the open space plan. And actually there are acres in this area or parcels that have sold in the last 2 months. We've seen the postings, and I've spoken with real estate agents, and they've confirmed that the acres have sold, and that the owners of these acres are actually looking to continue to sell parcels there in the lower Brisbane acres. So the development starting from the lower side could continue to reach what is currently the acres part of the open space plan. So that's why I think there are two problems there, and I think they should be addressed. Both of them should be addressed because that's really what's happening in the acres today.
So what were the acres that were sold? Was it Harold Road or what? Which lots specifically?
One of the acres that recently sold, I believe, is on the open space map. I think it's parcel 83, which
What is that?
This road.
Yeah, it's like Beatrice.
Yeah, it's where the benches for.
Yeah, and that was marked in the open space plan as lesser of a priority. So there's basically kind of three categories of acres. There's the upper acres that the city of Brisbane in 2001 with the open space plan considered to be priority acres. Then there was lower priority acres that were still in the upper acres that were adjacent to already developed properties according to the little chart in the back. You had it open to that a few minutes ago. And I had brought this up when we were doing the PCA. And then there are the lower acres, which are the ones like along the backside of Tulare Hill and some along Upper Bayshore Boulevard, which were not considered to be priority. And so we've lost, just in the last 2 months, key acres in the upper acres that were, at the time this plan was developed 15 years ago, weren't considered to be priority, and they weren't thought to be much buildable. But with the price of land now, one of those acres sold for almost $400,000. You think they're just going to sit on it and look at the view?
No.
Well, I mean, I'm curious what's changed. If you had one owner, a private owner, wasn't owned by the city.
Right.
Now you have a different private owner.
So what's changed is that the first private owner acquired the acre many decades ago.
Right.
And the new private owner just acquired the acre with the purpose of developing it. And we had originally, the council and recently reaffirmed that they were going to make an offer on any priority acres that came up for acquisition, regardless of whether we were setting aside money for it. And I just had a conversation with Clark about that again recently.
Can you 1 sec?
Yeah.
But this one that sold was a low priority, correct?
This one that sold is in the upper acres, and in 2001 was deemed less of a priority because it was near or adjacent to a property that had a development on it.
Yeah. To clarify, this plan has priority area based on meeting a number of criteria, not developable or not.
No, not whether it's developable or not. There's a chart in here.
Yeah,
know that.
And it has multiple criteria, it didn't meet one, so it didn't fall in the category.
Right. And I'm saying that needs to be reevaluated and recategorized.
But I don't think you were characterizing how the priority area was defined.
Okay.
Correct.
So there's a chart in our open space plan, which you had it open to a few minutes ago.
Is everybody familiar with the chart? Does everybody remember the chart, having looked at it before? I unfortunately did not bring my copy. It would have been brilliant. Or if Natalie had a few extra copies on hand.
Well, I asked...
Chart, right?
Yes, this chart. Okay. So the criteria was contiguous with County Park, developed lots on more than one side, potential trail corridor, contains intact native vegetation, contains endangered butterfly habitat, contains permanent or semi-permanent wetlands, forms a portion of a significant ridgeline, forms a portion of a significant watercourse, falls within the central Brisbane viewshed.
So your feeling, Michelle, is that these categories are out of date?
My feeling is that these categories are out of date and that we need to add several of these lots and upgrade their status to priority, because what is happening is that you go in and you develop a lot in the middle of a bunch of lots that are vacant and have habitat, and you have now introduced into a swath of native habitat, roads.
So that's not the case with this one, right?
Yes, it is.
I thought this one was low priority because it was...
At the time that the chart was done, it was deemed lower priority because it didn't meet all those criteria. But if you look at the map, which
What
you don't...
criteria did it miss?
Let's take a look. I think it's number 83.
What I'd like to do is propose that, I mean, unless, Paul, do you have additional stuff that you'd like to present, or?
I do.
Okay. So, because this clearly sounds like we're starting to get into agenda item number 6.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is discuss that then and not, because otherwise we could be here all night on this.
So are there any other questions?
Paul Brown, I have a question for him.
Yeah, I have some too.
Okay. So I guess my only question is, as you were talking about this, it sounds very legal. Okay. Everything's written into a trust. Everything's determined by who can do what and what can be done. And legal ramifications, I'm not really sure what we can do. So do you have any options or suggestions about what we could do to make these parcels more protected?
Well, that's what this creating a conservation through like trust for public lands distinction, or actually turning them over to the county and to include them into the parks like we did with the dunes.
So the property be
when you said it sounded,
protected?
what you said it sounded quite legal.
Yeah.
The way it stands now, well, it is legal, but it also has provisions that monies could be paid back and lands could be deemed to be something other than what they are perceived to be.
Right.
Or not that the city's perceiving them to be open space, because I understand that was their intentions, were to purchase these lands to protect them, but with the provisions that both the people that donated money and the word open space allows these areas to be manipulated.
I think we need to run this by the city attorney as well. I mean,
sure.
There's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, and we can just go and say what we want to say.
Can I interject on
says
this?
no.
Can I interject on this? Fred presented about Lot 79 to the City Council in late November, and this question came up with Council, and it has been referred to the City Attorney. So that was going to be done in staff update. And I don't know if this committee is unsatisfied with that, but I think it is illegal.
Well, okay, so if I could just comment on that?
Sure.
I'm not swayed by the committee's accepting that it's acceptable or legal or anything else. I'm concerned as a resident and as a person that has seen areas that were to be protected were neglected. From the U.S. Fish and Wildlife to other agencies that have been in charge of areas, I don't know what the words are, but I'm just concerned. So I'm not challenging anybody's the legality of anything here, and I was the one that made the comments when Fred Smith made his presentation, and the city attorneys concurred with Fred's assurance that these lands are protected and that conservation easements are typically, the words Fred used, not these properties. And like I said, typically farmlands and dairies or other agricultural type lands, not open space, when in fact they do fit within the criteria for conservation easements. So I wanted to challenge that comment that was made, so that made me want to delve even deeper into what it is we need to do to protect these lands.
Can I ask, who's Fred Smith?
Yeah, I had the same question. I mean, I guess the question is, why has this been presented to City Council before being shared, even through email with Open Space and Ecology Committee, because we are not aware of what's going on.
So, okay, so,
and it's not just a question for you, but also city staff, so.
Staff answer that?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Fred Smith is the former staff person to the Open Space and Ecology Committee. He's retired, but he's still responsible for the negotiations and purchase of the acres that are prioritized in this plan. And that's what we're purchasing. The city's purchasing an acre. He's doing the grant application, or did the grant application, and he's the one that brings it to council, and he's still actively, he's been around since 2001.
He's trying to buy Lot 79 is the issue.
And I think
you mentioned 79 in conjunction with his name, and I apologize, I'm just not up to speed on all of the different things, but just for context.
Yeah,
I don't understand.
we had been talking about 84 before.
Well, no, I mean, I think it's a general issue which Paul is bringing to us, and I actually am completely share his concern. I'm just trying to get up to speed on this because I hadn't heard about it before. But so Fred Smith presented to the City Council with regards to Lot 79.
I believe it was Lot 79, yes.
And then as part of that, he mentioned that conservation easements are not typically, and the word typical being not typically used for this kind of land, but that doesn't answer the question of whether they can be used for this kind of land.
And it was referred, the council asked the city attorney to look into the matter, and he has not done so.
And, okay, so, but one thing that sort of comes out is that perhaps the person who's in charge of protecting the acres is not looking at all of the range of options which might be available that for some reason, and so it's been referred to the city attorney, though.
Yeah, but the council is in charge of protecting the acres. He's just a staff person working.
Who buys them.
So he's not on his own.
Right.
Working in
Right. Okay. All right. No, thank you. I appreciate that. That helps quite a bit.
So my concern is that with the way that things currently stand, while the acres that we've purchased have some level of protection right now, some of it is at the will of the governing body of the city of Brisbane. And I think that our faith has been a little bit shaken when public land was sold for economic development purposes, and it was an area that had potential sensitive habitat, watershed, adjacent to the county park or soon-to-be county park, and met many of the criteria that are on the acres resource database. And in order to make sure that these lands that have already been purchased and that future, two things. One, that the lands that have already been purchased by the city of Brisbane to be protected are indeed protected in perpetuity, regardless of the political will of the whatever current or future current sitting council there is. And the second part of it is that the open space plan is now 15 years old, and we need to reevaluate the criteria by which we wish to preserve the upper acres. We know so much more now than we did 15 years ago about how adjacent habitats affect each other, how it works as a total working habitat, and you can't just plunk a piece out and plunk a piece out. And the other thing that is important about that is that it's as land prices and the value of land continue to dramatically rise in our area, in the Bay Area, there will be more and more pressure put on these precious areas where people want that space and to build a mega mansion. Yes, Paul?
So if I could just make a comment to Camelia's question as to, the fact that these talks have been going back and forth, but they haven't been brought to the Open Space Ecology Committee. A little history, back when I was on the Open Space Ecology Committee, probably, I don't know, back when Fred Smith and Ray were on it 15 years ago, I did a term on the Open Space Ecology Committee. I was concerned about these acres, and I called it a loophole, that these provisions that were there that could create these opportunities with a negative effect. But to answer your question about bringing up these issues, I brought them up when Fred acquired that last acre, because I felt it was appropriate, because they were talking about it.
Which one, last acre? What do you?
This last acre that was just purchased.
79.
Is it 79?
It might be the one before.
Back in November.
Yeah.
When we had.
By the city or a private individual?
That was with matching grant for funding from the, I believe, the Coastal Conservancy.
City purchase, yes.
Okay, good.
And-
With grant funding. She was asking whether it was private or city purchased. Whether it was purchased by a private party or the city.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, with matching funds, or a percentage, 2/3% was created from the Coastal Conservancy and 1/3 by the city. But the other concern I had was when we were talking about the Baylands development. And, you know, I sat on the DEIR, and I've been to a lot of the EIR meetings, and one of the things that I brought up in regards to open space is even the term open space in our open space plan is open space / open areas. Open areas meaning privately owned properties. And now on the plan for the Baylands, and this goes back to the acres real quick if I could, they say open space and or open areas. And so I question that, or open areas. I mean, now when there was hope that, you know, 25% of the Baylands was going to be put into open space / open areas, it could be and or open areas. And what, without a site-specific plan for the Baylands, the fact that the city owns parcels up in the acres for the water department, you know, we don't need a higher water tank in Brisbane to serve central Brisbane or any other part of Brisbane. And without a site-specific plan, could Icehouse Hill be used for the water tank? Could the Livingston property be used for the water tank and all its roads and everything it takes to get to the water tanks? Or could Upper Brisbane be subject to be used for a water tank? So at these meetings, I would bring up the whole thing, like I said, about open space and the lands.
Yeah. Right. And so the other thing is on the open space map, there are several lots that are not listed as considered, you know, having parcels with one or more significant resources. Actually, I think it was lot 88 that just sold for $300,000 or $400,000. And you can be sure, I think, and it's like some of these other lots, like 99, 95, some of these other ones that are on the market right now. And the more the development goes up towards the other acres, the more that the other acres will degrade, and the whole view shed will degrade.
That's right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we need to look at the open space plan and amend it.
Yeah. I totally agree with Michelle and Paul, and I think this is a really big concern. And so in terms of next steps, I guess the question is, what are the next steps? How do we start working on it in terms of evaluating what acres should be protected?
I think that's a great way to start item number 6, when we have this on the agenda, like to discuss the concerns with the open space plan and be able to discuss what our next steps are. I see a subcommittee in our future.
Me too.
Yeah.
Right. And I think subcommittee would be great. I guess also we would like to pose the question, what do we do with the lots up there in the Brisbane acres that are currently listed for sale? Because I think there are still lots for sale there, and should the city look into them in the short term?
Yeah, 91 I think is for sale. I saw a list for it. Maybe it's 93.
So this is a little break. I got so many questions rolling around my brain, I can't even think to answer ask that many. My understanding from real estate developers that I've spoke to about the Brisbane acres is it takes one property closest to the most developed area, and the rest are just going to fall like dominoes.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's what I was told as well.
The sewer, the water, the electrical, all that costs so much money. So your concern about them plopping one in the middle is really not founded. It's the ones on the corners.
Yes.
Now, my understanding is that the cities play the game of checkers, so to speak, purchasing key properties to keep that from happening. Is this not happening?
I think Paul's point about, the fact that future city councils could change, and I think this is especially important with development of the Baylands. If there's new, not that anybody on this committee would like to see population living down there, but if somehow that happened, then there would be people who might not have the same priorities for the Brisbane acres or old Brisbane as we might see it, and people might be elected to the city council based on new population growth that might change the balance of conservation. So I completely agree with you that we need to look at more permanent steps and really hold the current council's feet to the fire on their commitment to put the properties into a more permanent state. I am a little bit familiar with Peninsula Open Space Trust. I'm not familiar with the other organization that you mentioned, but I was curious, in your conversations with Post, how did that go, and are they still interested in working on this, or?
Yes, and the Trust for Public Lands in particular, they've been the most receptive, and by no means was there any commitments, or these were just inquiries as far as what they thought about the possibilities. And they both agree that this is something that needs to be looked at and evaluated, and for all the criteria we know that those lands are about, and the fact that they're adjacent to the county park system makes them just total candidates for their what they do.
Yeah.
And for future acquisitions as well of lands.
I think it would be great, as a preparatory information for the work that I think the subcommittee or the committee really needs to undertake, is to get a better assessment of which acres are currently owned by private individuals, which ones are encumbered or protected by conservation clauses in their in their deeds, and really find out what the state is. Which ones are at risk of, simply a legislative change, with no repayment required, which ones would have repayment required, which ones are on the market, any ability to get a better understanding, and I keep saying about future agenda items, but, I think that given that the open space plan is 15 years old, there's been a lot of development in the Bay Area since then, and it's probably getting a little long in the tooth, and I think that it probably deserves a little reconsideration based on current science and current, population issues and all of the other stuff that's kind of impacting the natural spaces we have left here in Brisbane and in the Bay Area in general.
Fine by me.
I'm highly supportive of this. Thank you so much for bringing it to our attention, and definitely would like to see something come out of this. Yeah.
I have one more question. So when we talk about working with the Trust for Public Land or Peninsula Open Space, what would that entail exactly? I mean, would we want the city would they buy the land from the city? Is that how this would work? Or
Well, it's like what this stated. There could be tax benefits to the city. There could be donations from the city to the park system. It's public land. It could be transferred over to a agency, which could be a nonprofit, and then transferred into the parks system. I mean, there's mechanisms, and those were things that I really don't. I know that there's a whole bunch of there's a matrix of
okay.
ways that you formulate a plan.
I'm just thinking about city council, and because the city council would have to agree to anything like this, and so,
A lot of times what the open space trusts do, and at least, Post, the one I'm most familiar with, is they'll buy individual parcels from private owners, sometimes with considerations like, when I die, I want you to have this land, or when, my kids don't want to farm here, or whatever. So it's not always like instant transfers or sales. There's a lot of different ways. But then they'll take these pieces, these parcels, and they'll hold on to them until other ones and adjacent ones become available, and they'll pick those up. And once they've put together a significant contiguous area, then they'll look to a public agency that they'll transfer them to, because the Open Space Trust, what they don't do is land maintenance, and so you can have a lot of problems with invasive species and other stuff, because they don't actually manage the land for conservation or for public use. But a good example is like Persimmon Creek down in San Mateo County, a little south of here. They've been buying up properties along Persimmon Creek, and ultimately they want to have a trail running from Skyline down to the sea. And slowly over the last couple of decades, they've been accumulating, and they just, I think, in the last year, purchased one of the key properties.
No, I get that part.
So the way that would work, I think, in the acres is that they would start taking an active interest in purchasing these properties with the intent of eventually ceding them to the state and county park system.
Okay, so you're talking about they would take an interest in purchasing properties that become available on the market by private owners,
Or
right?
from, like Paul said, from the city, from whatever it is, but their end game is to transfer the land to the government.
Gotcha.
So that they can manage
My
it.
question refers to the lands that the city now owns,
Yeah.
which we're worried about.
Yeah.
And, what might we propose? That the city turn them over to a trust, or the trust would buy them? And that's what's hanging.
I think that's what we need to investigate.
Or that we amend the deeds with conservation easements that
Yeah.
are ironclad.
Yeah. I think that's a start, is first you put a conservation easement on it. That might require a transfer of funds from one party to another to account for the loss of economic revenue or whatever possibilities, but at the end of the day, once they get a hold of it, they're not going to give it to anybody but the state and county park system.
Okay, so that's what Fred is asking the city attorney to check into?
The council asked the city attorney
To check into conservation easements?
all the options to protect that land.
Okay.
Cool. Any idea when the city council or when the city attorney is going to be back with that, or?
I believe they're meeting in January to
Okay.
talk about it, so I'm not sure if that's the end.
Yeah, I think we should definitely agendize this for January, February to follow up, but yeah.
Just real quick before you're gone, I don't want, I keep dragging you back in.
I'm going to hang around because I did also come down for what you're on
Right,
your
so
agenda.
one of the things I keep hearing is that how it's set up now, there's loopholes, okay? How do we know that if we deed all this property over to the state, there aren't loopholes with the state?
Or the county?
Or the
conservation
they
easement.
change their mind, say, City of Brisbane, sorry, so sad, too bad, and, we're going to develop that property anyway.
Well, that's a good question, but it's the protections that you should seek are conservation easements or have these lands held through a land trust until you have the Williamson Act was created to do such things like that. It would give property owners 10 years that they couldn't do anything for 10 years. I don't know if it was to create funding mechanisms and give people time to create these easements, but that's the concern, is that they need to be protected because you're right, the state and the county is no different than any other legislative body. They could change the distinction at their will.
Yeah, and a conservation easement, if I understand correctly, I'm not a lawyer, but a conservation easement is a legal mechanism whereby you irrevocably forego certain rights and you attach that to the property, so it becomes part of the property, just like if you bought a property and it's like, oh, well, PG&E has a utility easement because they run a wire across the property. You can't do anything about that. That comes with the property. And likewise, a conservation easement takes out the possibility of being able to do certain things with that property, and then you pass that on to the next owner, which is usually like a conservation trust or something
And the
like
city
that.
attorney's already looking into that.
Apparently, yeah.
Good. Okay, good.
Okay?
Cool.
Okay, so I have one more thing I wanted to share with you on a lighter note. So I'm sure most of you are aware that there's a Pacific Chorus frog habitat that is a area in the industrial park at 100 Cypress Lane that is been restored and maintained, and we have a beautiful stewardship program that's part of that in conjunction with the City of Brisbane, private property owners, and San Bruno Mountain Watch. There are other areas that are wetlands in the industrial park, and one in particular is a creek. The Pacific Chorus frog habitat is seep-fed, and winter pooling of winter rains, when in fact we have an actual creek that's the watershed from Devil's Arroyo, Wax Myrtle, Devil's Arroyo, the McKesson properties, which are between Devil's Arroyo and the quarry, and they run west of South Hill Boulevard, which is from Dolby down the hill to behind Byrite and Airport Publishers, those areas that are right below Quarry Road. And that creek is an amazing resource, And I just got permission from the City of Brisbane through Randy Bro, and our stewardship coordinator, Ariel, as well as others, have decided that we want to clean that creek. We're going to be tagging invasive trees that are there. We got tree companies that have agreed to remove these invasive trees. They are on the east side of the creek, which is the primarily sunny side in the mornings. It's shady in the afternoons because of the eucalyptus trees on Quarry Road. But so our intentions are to have a one-day cleanup to where we're going to clean up garbage from Dolby, all the way behind Dolby, and all the way down past Bywright to where the creek goes into a culvert. So it's actually daylighted, the creek that's there, and it runs year-round. So we're going to do this cleanup, and I have volunteers lined up to help. And that will go a long way in expanding the wetlands that we have within Brisbane and the maintenance of them. Last thing I want to share with you is we are going to be sending a proposal from San Bernardino Mountain Watch to the City of Brisbane asking for funding. I spoke to Clay Holstein about what are the possibilities, and he said, send us a proposal. He seemed receptive to not only funding, but to providing a contract of sorts, which could be 1 to 3 years. I know that's typical for some of the things that they've done in the past, so we're going to be sending a proposal, and I'm anxious to see what the outcome's going to be. But in the meantime, we're going to do it with volunteers and other agencies and the scavengers that are going to supply green waste to help us on our project. So
Super.
Cool.
Great.
That sounds great.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. That's great. All right. Well, lots of great information. Thank you very much for coming, Paul. Any other final closing comments? Or? All right. Let's move on to chair and committee member matters. The chair has no matters. Does committee members have matters? Barbara?
Yeah, I wanted to comment a little bit about the tree watering. Last session, I expressed some concern about the tree watering because the gentleman from Davey Tree was spending like to the 20 seconds at each tree, and I didn't know how fast that pump puts out water, but that did not seem in my cursory expectations like it would be adequate. This month there was a new gentleman, and I think it took him like an hour to move 2 blocks. So clearly this new person is putting down a lot more water, and I wanted to just share that because that made me feel really happy. I don't know if it was anything anybody said or just a different in the perception of the employee about how to do his job, but it was great. A lot more water got put down, obviously. Last session, I realized I misspoke. I know what I'm talking about, but I said the wrong thing. Milk cartons go in the green bin, but I seem to recall myself saying that they go in the recycling, which is incorrect. I didn't actually go back to review the video to see if I had in fact made that mistake, but I just wanted to put that out there for the public record in case anybody had been listening and I accidentally gave them the wrong idea. I also had a note here that I wanted to talk to Michelle about clarifying her concerns about the protection of the acres. I think we've gone over that.
Yeah, I think we're going to go over that.
And go over that some more. Another thing I wanted to mention to the committee is that we lost the zip car program. I'm not sure if everybody is aware of that or not yet. It was very sad. I can't say that I ever used the zip car, but I'm still sad to see it go.
Me too.
And then, because that was part of our cap, so we've lost part of our, small piece of our cap before we've even gotten started, and I'm not sure, I don't don't see any way to backpedal out of that, since Zipcar obviously has made their determination that this Brisbane is not a workable market for them. And then my final thing that I wanted to bring up was the lot paving letter that I believe Kima signed and has gone to council. I was just wanted to ask staff to keep us updated on that, if the council is going to read it, if the council is going to take any action on it.
You can check in.
Thank you. Also, I had a couple of things from the agenda. Would you like me to go over those now or during
Minutes, you mean?
during the minutes? Yeah, sorry, the minutes. We'll go over them during the minutes. Just a couple matters I wanted to follow up on.
Following up on staff update stuff?
I think so.
Okay, why don't we cover that on the staff updates, and if something's not covered, then
Okay.
you can ask the questions there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless you want to do it now.
Well, I mean, it's fine. I mean, I'm not attached. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, whatever.
It's all the same.
All the same.
Hi, Glenn.
Just a couple things. Better late than never. I did write a set of 6 climate and energy facts to be posted on the weekly website updates, and I emailed them to you, Natalie, right before this meeting. I brought a copy with me if any of you guys would like to hear them, or I can pass it down to see if, just if you want to look at them.
I added that to staff updates because that was an item.
Oh, okay. All right, so that can wait. The other thing is, there are a lot more dead trees around town. So, I don't know, should we be reporting those to you? Is that, there are a couple of them, I think, on this block.
Yes, it would be helpful if another list was compiled because I'm keeping track of who I sent letters to already. So if you give me a list, I would know who I already sent a letter to.
Okay.
So in that regard, we're removing trees. I want to ask, do we have any plans to replace them with new trees? Because Valley Drive, and obviously that trees have to be removed, but Valley Drive is starting to look like a scary. It's like a cemetery of, tree trunks and...
That's up to the property owners.
Yeah, unfortunately, private land, we can't.
Actually, it's not up to the property owners. There's a thing where if you remove a tree in Park Industrial Park, I think you're supposed to plant another one, correct? And we give them some kind of 6-month moratorium on that.
I don't know what the time frame is, but I think in any case, when you remove a tree by a permit, you're supposed to replant one.
Especially in Park Industrial Park, I think it's part of their thing.
So then when Natalie sends them a letter for removing the trees, maybe she can include
No, she's sending them a tree removal permit, and it's in there, and those the planning department processes those permits, so they deal with that and enforce them.
Yeah, and I think we gave them some moratorium time frame because of the extent of having to remove so many trees that are dead and the cost involved. We did that like last year when we first, it was before you joined us, Camilla. So.
Yeah, and we need to start looking at whether or not we need to remind ourselves what the time frame is.
Yeah.
And see, you said Public Works is going to check and make sure the trees are replaced?
Or planning staff.
Planning staff?
Manages the permits, yeah.
Oh, wait, but somebody has to actually go out there and check and make sure the replacement tree is planted. Who's that?
Well, the permits go to Ken Johnson.
Okay, but does Ken Johnson actually go out? I know they're writing on a piece of paper, but my question is there...
I'm 99% sure that he goes and physically checks. That's
okay. I'd like a report at that at some point in the future.
Right. Yeah, it would be great for us to know what the timeline is because I drive on Valley Drive every day, so I'll be, I'm sure I'll see if something is planted, but I don't think anything has been planted yet. So
I haven't noticed anything.
But sometimes you have to wait when a tree that large is removed. It takes a while for the roots to. They obviously didn't remove the roots. So if you plant something too soon, the new tree won't have a good survival rate. So the old roots have to rot a little bit. So, I'm not surprised that they're not replanted yet, and I would hope that they would wait until after the winter.
There might be some consideration for tree planting because of the drought. Like, certainly would be-
Well, this is a good year to plant because we've got rain
So far.
so far.
Is it Chair and Committee Matters where we would talk about visiting the South San Francisco scavengers, or is that somewhere else that we would mention that?
Well, I think we did this agenda before that, so
Oh, yeah, I was going to,
that'd be fine.
Okay.
I forgot.
Well, I'd just like to say, Friday morning, Natalie and Karen and Camilla and I toured the South San Francisco scavengers, and we saw the anaerobic digester, which was amazing. And we also went through the recycling center and a lot of other things, and it was really enlightening. And some of the things that are extremely challenging for reducing our waste stream is, and it involves a lot of it, the education of the public. And it's an area that we really, I think, need to work on, and we need to work with them on maybe producing some mini videos and instructional things. But, like, for instance, if you put a plastic bag in the green waste bin that's sealed, it will go through the 21-day anaerobic digester, and at the end you will still have a plastic bag filled with crap, because it's not heat-based, it's the anaerobic bacteria that needs to get inside the bag and eat up the stuff. And it also, like the people look at the bins and there's this myth that, it all goes in the same hole. Well, that's not true. Inside the garbage truck, there's a diverter that actually separates the containers from the paper, just like it is in your waste bin. And then there's a whole lot of really icky jobs that people have to do at the South San Francisco scavengers of sorting the garbage because the people didn't sort it right, or they put plastic in their green waste, or they put the wrong stuff in their recycle bins. And not only is it really disgusting and really slows down the waste stream in our work towards zero waste, it also it just milks it up, and it costs more money for the scavenger company, which in turn increases our rates and decreases our ability to be able to process the garbage properly. And it was amazing to see how they sort and bundle everything, and it's an incredible operation, and as citizens of the world, we should do everything we can to help them do it correctly. And so we really need to have a more bird's eye view of what we're doing.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to that, and I'm sorry I couldn't get off of work in the end.
I'm sorry I wasn't able to come either, but I just had an idea, which is I wonder if, we're going to have Scavenger in to talk to us again at some point, aren't we?
Well, that's not scheduled yet, but I
It's not scheduled, but when they came last year, we talked about having them back to see if they could give us some clue about participation rates and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think we would like to do that soon, but I just had an idea, which is I wonder if they could stencil on the green bins something like no plastic.
They do have a sticker, I think, on the tops of them.
Mine doesn't have that. Not on the big outdoor waste bins. Maybe if they could figure out some way to put on the bins some indication of what should go in there, but at least what should not go in there.
Yeah, I know the flyers have that information.
I know, but
you're right.
It's hysterical because at work we have all this recycling, and we have the 3 bins, and we've got pictures on the wall and instructions, and it's really clear, and people still do it wrong.
Yeah.
And it makes me crazy. It's like, really?
Some of the things are confusing though. Like, for example, when I send an email to Ron that gave us a tour, with Natalie and Karen today, like, where does the pizza box go? Is it a container? Is it a carton box? Is it
It's in the green bin.
Well, pizza box can go in the green bin because it's food waste.
Well, at Altamar we don't have green bins. Where does it go?
In that case, it goes into if it's clean, it can go into the cardboard recycling, but if there's pizza on it, it has to go into the garbage.
Yeah.
Really any food on it.
Because I see my neighbors put it in the container blue bin.
No,
Right? So
that would be wrong.
So, anyway, it's
Stand there in front of the garbage can every morning going, So this is where even I know it, I'm still like frustrated and uneducated, but it was very enlightening. And Natalie, thank you so much for arranging that for us. It was an eye-opener. It really, really was.
Well, I posted an item-by-item guide to the Residents of Brisbane page for sorting garbage and recycling and stuff, so that's there under the files if anybody wants to use it.
I was going to say we offered to help, that we're the committee or the part of the city that would help them to try to get more people to be doing what they should be doing. So, yeah, hopefully they do take us up on that.
Paul?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on that because it seems, Paul Buscal, Brisbane resident, that digester seems like the same thing that they want to put in the Baylands. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I think Recology is also looking at NAD.
Yes. So I know that that issue is very contentious up in the Little Hollywood area. I also know that UPC isn't very receptive to the possibilities. But the fact that you guys went to visit a digester would go a long way in educating our community about what the possibilities could be and possibly eliminate some of the fears that people have, because it's quite possible that that could be built at their existing site anyway if they don't get permission from UPC. So it seems like any way you look at it, it's going to be coming to our border or within Brisbane. So.
Oh, that reminds me, Michelle, one question I was going to ask you. Did it smell?
I thought it smelled like a winery, that fermentation smell. A little bit.
For a little bit?
The digester smelled a bit. The building where they sort the stuff and have to pull out the plastic that goes, the stuff that's going to go in the digester, and when they do all that, that building was pretty awful.
So maybe learning to sort correctly is a odor control issue?
It would be. The other thing that may be a problem with having the building an anaerobic digester there is that they have to dig down. There's a huge, how many gallons did you say it was? 170?
It was 140,000.
So it was 200,000 gallon pool, basically, below the digester of fluids that has the anaerobic bacteria in it, and that's where the stuff, and so they had to dig down, and where they built theirs was clean landfill dirt, and so wherever Recology builds theirs, they can't dig down that far into the landfill.
Yeah, we'll have to watch. I'm sure they know that, but we'll have to.
I'm sure they know that too.
Check it.
But, so, anyway, not for that part of the report, but thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Camilla, any comments on your visit?
I think it was great to see here, and we picked up some brochures from the office, and I posted them on the Residents of Brisbane Facebook page today, so hopefully a lot of people, hopefully it will help people with sorting their trash, what goes in green and the different blue bins. And I know a lot of the Brisbane residents have been asking what's the trash pickup schedule during the holidays, so I posted that brochure too. So hopefully, because over Thanksgiving we had a few questions of people asking on Facebook what will be the trash collection schedule. So I posted one of the brochures that we picked up from scavengers that shows the holiday trash collection schedule. So it was very eye-opening experience, and I definitely enjoyed it. So thank you, Natalie, for organizing it. Another thing that I wanted to mention on the committee member matters is the work plan for 2016 for next year. I know at the last meeting we went over a document which I think the staff prepared, but I was wondering we have a specific plan for next year with key items, because to me it seems like reviewing and updating the open space plan is a key thing that should get included in the 2016 work plan. So I was wondering whether we have a work plan for next year that we all finalized.
That's a wonderful question. I love that.
That's item number 8 on the
Yes.
item 8.
Okay.
Yes. Great. No, I'm glad.
Everybody needs a paper agenda. This is
Yeah, I printed mine out today, too.
so you can look ahead and see, whoa, look what fun we're going to have.
Yeah, I always put mine out too.
Absolutely. Well, it sounds like it was a great trip, and I saw the pictures, and I really wish I'd been able to come. I had a child meltdown right before. Yeah, I just couldn't come. But I'm glad that you guys went and had a good time. I'm glad it was educational. Let's see.
Great subcommittee reports.
Excellent. Subcommittee reports. I think our first one is Climate Action Plan.
And that was that we don't expect there to be any update, but we wanted to just put this on here so we talk about starting doing some work in January. And if the subcommittee, the two that are on the subcommittee want to continue to work on that.
Oh, there's more than 2 of us, isn't there?
Nope.
Hmm?
You and me.
Oh, okay.
We can have 3 on a subcommittee now.
We can. Yeah, we can.
We were talking about the climate action plan. For some reason, I was hearing education and outreach. Yeah, no, we haven't met. I haven't done today's score about anything.
So, yeah, we understood everyone's busy now, but we want to start again in January. And we could, that is true, we could have a third person if someone's...
So I guess the question is the work on climate action plan going to some extent be overlapping or in conjunction with education and outreach? Because my understanding is that the next steps for the climate action plan are to really develop, so to say, materials that can be shared with the community in terms of education and outreach of how they can implement the climate action plan in their everyday life. So to say.
Somewhat, but some of them are measures that we want to implement and things we want to ask the council to do, and some of it is promotion of programs that exist.
Okay.
So maybe one of the first items that the subcommittee should do is parse that out into sub-subcommittees.
That's an idea.
We could meet in mid-January or so. I'm going to be away for the first week or so of January, but I should be back by the middle of the month.
Yeah.
So maybe we could do it by email, figure out are you out from under by then?
Yeah, I'm out from under by, January 5th or 6th or something. I'm out from under everything, so maybe even before you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. How about education and outreach?
I haven't done anything. I don't think Megan's been out of town, so I don't think she's done much.
I was at the library the other day. I still couldn't find our library shelf.
It's right as you come in the door. It's right on the right, just before you get to the desk.
Oh, it's on
the right.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It used to be on the left and on a tower, and now it's on the right on the wall.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Past
I'll
the
look again.
checkout machine?
Pretty much opposite the checkout machine, almost.
Oh, on the right, yeah. That would be the other left. Okay.
Yes. So they've got that back up. We're really happy. It doesn't have nearly the materials that it had on it last time, which is a little disappointing. I don't know where things went, unfortunately.
Maybe they got lent out?
Maybe.
Are stuff on there for lending?
Yes.
Let's take positive. Yeah.
Okay, but there's just like 2 or 3 little baskets that can hold like 2 or 3 items each. Before we had a really big display with a lot of videos and things. So I haven't wanted to query the gift horse, but it does not seem like it quite got there. They had asked me for some signage. I was a little nebulous on what they wanted. I have not gone back and clarified about what they wanted in terms of signage, but I think just if anybody thinks of anything they want to contribute,
Could we get some information on there about the recycling? And
Sure.
what's needed for proper destination of garbage?
Sure. I think we can put anything we want up there, and as long as it's pretty, I think the library staff will say yes.
Mary, didn't you say you had some pamphlets?
Yeah.
from the visit to the scavengers? Maybe we could put some up and have them displayed prominently?
Yeah, we can do that actually. I think that would be a good place to put them. Yeah.
We can maybe make little pockets and put some of the rebate stuff up there, some of the stuff we put out at the community park, because right now it's a little spare. And I think the library staff has done what they feel they want to do, so I think it's up to us at this point to go and make it prettier.
If next time you're there, could you ask them how big the posters, how many posters, how big, what kind of, so we have some idea of what sort of decorations they want. Because it's not that noticeable. I would have seen it.
Yeah.
So we need to make it stand out more.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. But I don't have much to say about that. Like I said, I've not done much this month.
Are there updates that needed to be made to the library shelf online?
I haven't come up with anything this month. I was going to ask a question. If we could have a private OSEC, or an OSEC identity or OSEC page, because frankly, I spend most of my time on Facebook now. I've just about given up on email because it's all spam anyway. So I'm basically using that platform for my communications. And certainly we'd have to be careful not to talk to each other because of the Brown Act, but if there was a way that I could send you things on Facebook, it's a lot easier to, if I wanted to add, something came up on Facebook that I thought was a good ad for the library shelf webpage, it would be easier for me to, paste it over there than like putting down my thing, going to my desktop computer, turning on my desktop computer, logging into my email, and then like transposing that from Facebook into my email and then sending that to you. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I know that staff brought a social media policy to council, and nothing got adopted. It was discussed at length, but not adopted. But at this time, we were steered away from having separate city Facebook pages because there were some groups or some departments have said, we could do our own Facebook page, and we were.
Yeah, I was thinking it would not be public. It could be a private page that just we could use to send things to you and Natalie. I'm not sure.
To sound like it's a Brown Act violation.
Yeah,
this really isn't under subcommittee reports. This really should be taken offline, this discussion.
Okay, that's fine. I was just looking for an easier way to get stuff to people.
Through the chair.
Yeah, okay.
Through the chair.
What? Oh, yeah, I apologize. I was looking at my...
Not used to having an audience.
I know, totally.
So, if I may, did I hear you correctly when you said this was outreach and education?
So there's an outreach and education
subcommittee.
Okay, so with that said, I was approached by one of your members and asked if I would be open to the possibility of creating some type of education venue for the students in the Brisbane School District. And as many of you know, last year I was asked by the school if I would be willing to help out with the school's after-school program, extracurricular, they called it the Mountain Club, and this year I am not active with the school because they included in their curriculum, and one of the teachers decided to expand the program to fit in with their curriculum. So when I was asked, and it was by Ms. Feldman, in some capacity if I'd be open to being willing to do something, whether it was extracurricular after school or whatever you guys come up with within your committee, I would be open to that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not seeing those kids after school anymore? I mean, it's kind of a moot point now, isn't it? That was my understanding from you.
Well, they're calling it this year again the Mountain Club, but doesn't mean there couldn't be something else, because the school is receptive to opportunities, and I know that the city of Brisbane, because we don't have a teen center, actually funds the after-school program at Lippman in particular. But if you guys wanted to come up with something that you had an idea about, I would definitely be there if I could help with that.
Okay. I'd like to talk to you some more then about what the after-school program is all about, because I'm not very familiar with it, and I'm not even on that subcommittee, but I thought I would ask.
But you did think it was important to want to include the students in some type of opportunity.
Well, we've talked about that with the climate action plan too. In the last meeting when our council liaisons were here, and one of us asked, well, is the council willing to spend any money to help publicize this? We were sort of told not so much, that we should try to do outreach about the climate action plan by working with existing community groups, which, as far as it goes, is a good idea. I don't, I still hope the council will do some of the things that we want, but working with existing groups that are already convened, is a good idea. So I just saw you and I thought, oh.
Okay.
San Diego Mountain Club, so that's why I asked.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks.
Awesome, Paul. So would members of the Education and Outreach Subcommittee like to work with Paul and see how there might be some alignment and mutual synergy?
I can only speak for myself, or we can meet with Paul as the Climate Action Plan Subcommittee too. I mean, there's a lot of overlap between those two right now, so I'm there. Just I'm when.
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Paul. That's really great.
So we'll haul you to another meeting.
Yeah.
January.
Make you a regular. Maybe
Done on.
want to join the OSEC again?
No, he doesn't. He wants to focus on Mountain West.
Okay.
Bad enough you already have me split.
Yeah.
So expertise.com, I sent an email out to Education and Outreach. So we were approached, emailed by expertise.com asking to post information on our OSEC library shelf webpage. And so what this website offers is basically ways of upgrading your home, like to-dos for yourself, and is supposed to connect you with contractors and local experts. So Karen and I kind of looked at the site and thought about it, and so you wanted to get an opinion from Education and Outreach. So I believe I sent Education Outreach all the available links and information. I looked at it. Right now, it seems to have useful information of how-tos and do-it-yourself guides on things. I saw that in the future they plan to offer access to professionals. Let's say if you need something installed, and that's how they're going to monetize the site. So right now it has useful guides of how people can do things. I guess we can include it and maybe monitor it if people start getting spammed with emails for signing up for different type of paid services, then we remove it. But for right now, seemed like an okay resource.
Isn't San Mateo County Energy Upgrade also offering some stuff like that?
They offer similar things through PG&E, basically an application that will walk you through your home.
Right.
And this is kind of online. You would research information about a project that you would be interested in doing.
Okay. Do they also, does San Mateo Energy Upgrade also recommend contractors or not? Do they have an approved list or something? I mean, if it does, we might want to stick to that route because...
I don't believe so, but I'll check.
Because to get rebates and stuff, contractors have to have certain certifications and specifications. I'm a little bit leery of hooking people up with another site. Of course, I don't know anything about it, but...
I didn't have a chance to look at it, so I can't say anything.
Yeah, that was our first thought, to make sure that it wasn't something that would spam people or was specifically narrowing down kind of a number of choices. It seemed like at this point they just have interesting articles, and it seemed pretty innocuous, but I think we could either choose to not do it or put it on and monitor it, or regional options.
Monitor it.
Alrighty. Minutes. Anybody have any items about the minutes that they want to call out?
Yeah, just one thing. Item number 4, it mentions that Megan went to the pop-up. I also went to the pop-up. Did anybody else go? Yeah.
Did anybody not go to the pop-up?
I didn't go to the pop-up.
What the?
Yeah.
I didn't go.
I didn't go.
Oh, okay.
But I did a stakeholder interview a couple days later.
Yeah. So I just would like, I mean, if we're going to mention that Megan went to the pop-up, I think everybody else that went to the pop-up should also be on there so that the record is comprehensive.
Okay, I know she was the only one that mentioned that she went, so then I'll add your name as well.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah. I think the rest of the things were things I wanted to follow up on. So we had mentioned doing those under staff updates, so that was it for corrections to the minutes.
I had one thing, item 3. Doesn't really make sense. People would like OSEC members to the CAP for ideas to implement. So I'm not really sure what that is about. But in any case, it doesn't make sense.
I think that should, good catch, Glenn. I think that should read OSEC members to refer to the CAP for ideas to implement.
Okay, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
You wanted everybody to look through the climate action plan and...
Yeah, help us come up with ideas if they could, of what things to actually start, where to start.
I move to accept the minutes.
Do I have
As amended?
all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I abstain.
All right. Still allowed to vote for it. Yeah. All right. So I think this has come up earlier in the meeting, but I'd like to reopen our discussion of the 2001 Open Space Plan, kind of noting that it has been, getting on probably 16 or 17 years since the previous one was started, because the previous one came out in 2001. So probably a lot of the work happened subsequent to the 1994 general plan, and then for a few years. How long did it take to put it together?
A long time.
A couple years?
Yeah.
So yeah, we're approaching 2 decades since the work started, and it sounds like there might be some concerns.
Yeah, my greatest concern is that I think it's time to review and update the open space plan. I think that it's a very solid document. It just needs more in consideration with how things have changed in the last 15 years. And in particular, I think that we need to increase the number of lots that are considered priorities and review a few of the things in here. So I think it needs review and enhancement.
I think in line with some of the things that were brought up earlier by Paul, one of the things we might want to consider in the open space plan is how are these areas going to be protected. So not just talking about which are the ones that deserve protection, but also a mechanism or a roadmap for getting the best possible protection. And, so it seems to me that there's kind of a progression where, first something is just saved, maybe conserved by a private landowner, then maybe it might be bought by a city or a land trust, and then eventually it might get incorporated into some larger regional park or whatever. But, having the open space plan reflect that progression with the ultimate goal of moving into permanent protection any available areas, as many as possible.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is that not just to focus on the acres, but also to focus on some of the other properties around Brisbane, like the Levinson property, the Peking Handicraft property, some of the other sensitive properties that are not just the Brisbane Acres.
Well, the original open space plan had several areas.
Right.
So
And so,
we would be excluding those from
No.
any review or revision.
Right.
The purpose would be to expand.
Pardon?
The whole purpose of reviewing this document is to expand it.
Right.
Right.
And
I keep running the numbers in my head, but they're selling parcels. They're selling parcels for like $400,000. It costs you $1 million to build a house. It's going to sell for $2 million. These things are
3, 4, 5 million.
they're going to be gone in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going to be gone before we can revise this action plan.
That's my concern as well.
So there's
There's already people purchase them with plans to renovate and build. It's kind of a question, you can't really do much to slow or stop them.
Well, one of the things I think that there's a lot of buzz around a new, a project management framework called Agile, where you do it in like sprints, and you take sections, and you're working towards a goal, but you do sections and complete sections and sprint through this section and that section, and rather than go out and spend 3 years, updating the whole plan and then go, here's the update, bam, approved, done. I think that we need to take it step at a time so that we can accomplish the things that have the highest priority first while we're reviewing it. And right now, to me, one of the highest priorities is protection of the acres and that whole upper mountain habitat. It is one of the last places in California where there are native California grasses that still exist in natural habitat. And it is above, those upper acres and then into the park is some of the most pristine, rich, diverse habitat on the entire mountain.
You better hurry up before I go buy one and build a mega mansion on it.
I know. This is why I'm like, so at our next meeting, I'd like us to lay out a plan, maybe this meeting, maybe now we decide on a subcommittee, and at our next meeting, we report out on what areas of the plan we want to start with that are the most highest priority,
I'll be
and we move forward.
in February.
Actually, Glenn, go first, but I have a more process question. But go ahead.
Even at the same time as we're working on the plan, I'm just curious, as I remember a few years ago, the city suspended the $50,000 a year it was setting aside to buy properties. I'm just curious how much money the city has available to buy properties that come up for sale, including, we still have a few that I think are a priority that we, that we agreed were priority for purchase, but does the city have the money? What about this bakery money?
Can I answer that?
Sure.
I mean, I know Karen will want to answer it in depth, but my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong or if you know better, and I'm sure it'll get corrected, but my understanding was even though we stopped putting aside the $50,000 a year into a fund, that the council had agreed that any properties, they would consider any properties in the priority area that came up for sale and purchase them. But
that's only a few of the properties that we're worried about.
that remain, yes. And so it was my understanding that would be the case, and that was reiterated again recently by one of the council members to me, by Clark, who originally was a huge proponent of this. And we kind of need to make sure that's still the status and really be more aggressive about it. And does the city have money to do that? Well, we have money to spend, several $100,000 on a skate park and a lot of money on a new library and other funds. And I think that preserving our most precious mountain resources is every bit as important.
I do too. I just wondered what the status of the money is.
So not being the staff responsible, it's just what I don't vaguely recall anything different than what Michelle has just stated, so we can check into that for you.
So just for information, the library's not being funded by the city. It's being funded out of Measure A or something, primarily. Just,
Well, and if you're going to make that statement, I mean, there's a number of things the city funds, so and the council each year does a budget, so it's not as simple as saying we have to fund this, that.
Yeah, it just depends on priorities, and we need to set, help set some of those priorities.
I think,
Based on what, I mean, people look up there, honest to God, it's again a matter of education. People look up there and they say, oh yes, and Brisbane bought all these acres and this is all protected, until it gets developed, and then they're like, hey, what happened? I thought those were protected. Oh, well, no, that one wasn't protected. And so, we've done a good job of the PR about the stuff that we've protected and how great Brisbane is about buying those, and it is truly great, but we haven't done a good job about the PR that we need to continue to chip away and protect the rest of them.
Go for it.
I have a question regarding our work plan and whether a review of the open space plan is on that work plan, because if not, do we need to speak with the council or get the council's permission, or how would it work? I know that there's a lot of interest and committee members are chomping at the bit to get started on this, and I do think it is very important, but I'm wondering sort of from a process basis, do we have to have it on our work plan? Do we have to have the work plan approved? Does it need to be added? Is it already there?
Yeah, we need council direction to relook at this, and a consultant prepared this, and so a lot of the work was done by an open space intern that was full-time staff, so there are resources required. It's not just something that the committee is going to look up and say, here's the new plan. Yeah, we do have to follow a process.
So,
I just want to add that review of the open space plan has been on our work plan in the past and didn't get done, so I think putting it on there again is not going to be a ball out of left field or anything.
We do an annual review of what the city has purchased over the past year and what's still in the priority areas that haven't been purchased yet. Maybe that's what you're referring to. That happens every year.
Oh, I thought we actually had a thing to review the plan at some point.
The other thing on our general plan, review the future proposed updates to open space element upon direction from City Council.
That's different.
But the open space element in the general plan, a lot of it follows sort of like it works together with the open space plan. So
I think
different though.
What I'd like to propose is maybe let's form a subcommittee to articulate, one, the concerns. I think that they've been laid out pretty well here, but let's get it put down on paper. Certainly, the potential for loopholes as well as chipping away at the edges of properties and the dominoes falling. I think those are, good starting point for some of the major concerns we have. And then talking about some of the limitations with the current plan, articulating those elements and making an argument or a request to the City Council with a proposed action plan of how we would plan on addressing that. I do really like your idea of agile methodology. I work in software development, so I'm familiar with that, and it certainly does have certain advantages to it, but like Karen said, the open space plan was developed by a consultant, and so at the end of the day, we're probably going to need to draw on some sort of expertise or resources to be able to do the same thing that was so well done so many years ago. So I'm wondering if committee members have any comments on that, or members of the public, and in terms of forming a subcommittee and taking some of those steps so that when we reconvene maybe in January or February, we have a roadmap that we can present to the City Council on what we would like to do, because I do think time is of the essence here.
Yeah. Well, I'd certainly be, shoot me now, willing to participate on that subcommittee.
Do we have to have a motion for a subcommittee or something like that, or?
On the 2012 work plan says open space plan. I don't know.
And then we got diverted with the Baylands, so.
Yeah, so.
We can check that they're council did ask us or direct us or allow us to reinvestigate. I know there's no budget to update this plan, so.
Well, I'm not saying that, we're going to go in and rewrite the plan. It's a fabulous plan. It's a great document. There are just areas where we need to maybe expand it and update it and
But that's what the plan, that's what the consultant did, was figure out which areas are a priority and make a recommendation.
Yeah.
This is Philip speaking, yes.
I think I don't think we're disagreeing. I think what we need to do is articulate the concerns. They've been very well articulated in the course of this meeting. There's been excellent points that have been brought up. But I'm thinking what the work for the subcommittee to do would be to put together all of that in a printed form, which can be used to go to the city council, as well as to maybe socialize to other members of the community. And then that would get the city council to make a decision on whether this is something that they share in their priority and to then fund it. We're not going to be able to revise the plan without the city council saying so, but I think we need to develop a very strong case for why this should be a priority.
I wanted to ask if San Bruno Mountain Watch has any members who are conservation biologists, or do you have access to any expert people who could help buttress the case? Because I think because this was prepared by a consultant, and because the areas that we're now worried about were not designated priority areas in the first place, you're going to have to find some basis, and I think it's out there, that some academic or expert basis for saying that the priority conservation areas need to be reevaluated, because it's been shown that buffer areas around, special habitat are essential to protect it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Can I say something?
Yeah, and then Mike and then Paul.
Okay. So this has been a race. This has always been a race between development and conservation. And I think when this plan was written, people realized that we potentially weren't going to be able to save everything. That's why things were given a priority. I'm concerned, I had to ask myself for a moment, are we throwing something in the fire during the FEIR process? Because I know people were really upset about Parkside being thrown in there. And I thought to myself, yeah, we are, and that's okay. Because as we've discussed here with the development pressures, the time is frankly now. So I'm completely with everybody here about going forward and revisiting, if we need to think about this, we need to think about it now. I did have two questions I wanted to put to staff. And that is there any reason the city does not want to pass along the ownership of this land? And I don't expect you to be able to answer that, Karen, but there may be some very specific reasons that the city wants to keep this in their portfolio, either financial or because of the maintenance issues, because as Paul pointed out, a lot of these land trusts don't deal with maintenance. And the city, I know, it is, right? It has a plan. We are maintaining these things. So I wanted to, and before we get too far down the road, I wanted to reach out and find out if there are reasons that we need to understand why or account for that these things shouldn't be changed. And then my general attitude is I'm not real trusting of the government, at least government officials, that I can't sit down and have coffee with at Madhouse, or, that I can't bump into at a soccer game. I am not super excited about passing these along to the state or the park system, or...
We haven't decided any of that yet.
Yeah, I'm just putting that out there. So...
A conservation trust is not passing along to a government or whatever.
I'm perfectly happy with the idea of it. I think I'm perfectly, as far as I understand the trust, perfectly happy with the idea of the trust. But some of these other ideas are less appealing to me, because I think as much as our council's contract, for future council could erode the legal guarantees that are in place now, I don't necessarily trust another public body any further. So that's just my concern about, where things end up.
So the other option is which,
Get an answer to my question first.
Oh, sorry, Glenn. I apologize.
I was just wondering if Mountain Watch has anybody on their
Yeah.
that could help articulate the value of changing the priority status of some of the remaining acres properties.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Bob Scal, Mountain Watch board member. To your question, the answer is yes. We have a past board member, Joe Cannon, who is the ecology professor at City College, who the county relies on as a member of the TAC committee to make assessments. So between him and others that we've worked with on San Bernardino Mountain, I'm confident that those parcels could be assessed through them and pro bono work to, where the mountain would come out and do that for us.
Oh, that's great.
We also have people who, are, they don't work for us, they work with us, they're affiliated with us. They're members of the California Native Plant Society. They're very, very familiar with the plants on the mountain and the different habitats and bioassessments.
Those were the others.
I think it'd be good even to get them in on the subcommittee's work on some level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that would be great. Do we have any other volunteers for?
I'll volunteer.
Right.
We can have 3 and we need 3.
I think we have space for one more.
I'm not sure what you guys are volunteering for, but I did have a question.
All right.
Before we get too far into this, I like Barbara, not so trusting of government. This document was written to protect the mountain. If we start modifying it, if we're even allowed to modify it, is that going to open a can of worms where, a developer says, well, if you're going to do this, let's talk to the council, we can have them do this, and now that it's open, since it's open, let's start developing. I mean, it was designed to protect as well. I don't know if the answer is out there yet or not, but is it going to open a can of worms?
I don't think so. I think that you need to go back and read the very first page of the purpose of the open space plan and what the open space plan does not do, and the executive summary, and you'll see that it's really not just about the mountain, it's about all of the open space in Brisbane.
Yeah, it even says in there that it's to be updated at times.
Mm-hmm. And to be updated at times. And I think that part of our concern isn't just the mountain, it's, all of the open space and how it's so interconnected. So I don't think it's opening a can of worms. I think that it is, it should be a living document. It's not the Holy Grail.
Right.
And, as good as this plan is, as well crafted as it is, and how strong it has been, it's a living, working document that needs updating.
Good.
Right.
And who better to update it than the Open Space and Ecology Committee from whence it was originally?
And I think to Michelle's earlier point, should the city council change, they don't need to have anybody open the can of worms to change the open space plan. They could change it themselves and say, we have different priorities now. So there's nothing stopping, a city council that was so inclined to say, you know what, let's just get rid of it. Somebody asking to make it better wouldn't necessarily precipitate that. If they wanted to do that, my impression is they could do that right now.
Yeah, I mean,
We need to sell off this line, we need more money, and
yeah, and with the kind of pressures that we have, my worst nightmare, oh my God, we're going to build like high-density, low-income housing, on an acre that the city owns.
I would actually think it would be worse if we put in very expensive high-end real estate. At least we would be satisfying the needs of low-income housing if we were putting that.
But the whole point is we want to keep it open space.
Yes.
But the pressures of the city to try to accommodate like marina members and everything else, forces them to do things that they may not want to do, but they get done. Economic development, for example.
Yeah, when I was at a planning commission meeting, there was someone from Peninsula Housing Association or something that said, and somebody in the California legislature saying, well, we need to start looking about cannibalizing open space to meet our housing needs. And I was just like, I would pterodactyl on that.
There's a recent article in the San Francisco Chronicle about, and the state is very concerned, and they are actually talking about, I forget who it is that's talking about this. I should have clipped that article when I saw it, but the state is actually talking about preempting some of the prerogatives of cities to deal with the housing crisis. So, we should be aware of that.
Yeah.
But getting back to business, could somebody just go over again briefly what the subcommittee is tasked with? Because I've just been asked to be on it, and I'm trying to make up my mind.
So let me recollect as best I can. So I think the first goal would be to articulate the specific concerns about where the weaknesses are in the open space plan. And the second would be to identify a roadmap for addressing those concerns, either by revising the entire open space plan or revising certain elements of it in a more agile kind of way. But it would be basically to provide the grounding for a decision to reopen the discussion on the open space plan. So what's the problem?
For the council, basically.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So it's basically, what information are we going to put together to convince the council that updating this is a good idea? And
I think some suggestions should go with that.
Yeah, so an articulation of the problem and a proposed roadmap would be, this is my corporate
With that limited mission, I will help.
All right.
Okay.
And also, the subcommittee has to solve the problem. No.
Well, I would love to be part of it, but I'm going to be out of town for the rest of the year and into the next, so.
Yeah,
You're going to be out of town for the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Oh, the rest of it, I'm sorry.
There's not so much left, by the way.
Michelle, I'm also going to be gone until...
Yeah, but I think that
I have time to jump on it quickly.
Camilla and I can maybe work on the first phase of it, and then so that we get council buy-in and have something prepared for the next meeting to be able to move forward with.
Yeah, because I think that some of the things that have been brought up are great, but having them, I always respond better to reading things black and white. If there's pictures and diagrams and charts, that makes it even better, and if there's like credentials and people's expertise in at the bottom, that solidifies it. And so taking it from like a hand-waving proposition to a articulated document is the goal of the subcommittee.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I would certainly ask Joe ASAP to weigh in on it.
Yes.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I must say that this committee is probably one of the most proactive bodies we have in this town, and I appreciate that. With that said, there's a newly retired council member, Ray Miller, who probably is sitting around doing nothing all day.
Probably watching this meeting.
And I think he would be a great person on your subcommittee to help facilitate what you're talking about, and especially in the sense that he was a founder, early person on the Open Space Ecology Committee and actually worked on that plan.
He'd be on a subcommittee, not being on OSEC?
Okay, pardon me?
Yes.
Or subcommittee.
Right, so I think the goal is to empower the subcommittee to, the goal is to empower the subcommittee to work with members of the public and the community and other experts that might be available through Mountain Watch to be able to put together as good a document as possible.
I would ask Ray,
Yeah, that's,
Oh, that's great.
okay.
I feel so productive.
Trying to get him back on OSEC, but...
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't say yeah.
What do we, any other comments on the open space plan, or are we good with the subcommittee and move on to review the report of accomplishments?
Oh, let's review our...
All right, let's do it. So, review of the report of accomplishments.
Wait, just,
Was the report of accomplishments in the, it wasn't in the packet, was it?
Yes.
It was? I had a big fight with my computer this morning.
Who won?
Oh, okay.
Well, the computer at least one part of it.
and we were also instrumental in getting the tree watering thing going.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's like, wow, you guys, good job.
Natalie, could you advance the slide? Should I hit the slide clicker? Right here.
It worked.
Yeah.
I haven't read the whole thing.
Yeah,
I don't think you have to do that right now, but if you see anything that was left out or that doesn't.
Can we get one more? Oh, there it is, Day in the Park. Okay.
Did you put in here about the video? Making the video as part of the day in the park?
Videographer was hired.
Oh, okay.
This looks really great. Thank you so much, Natalie, for putting this together.
Makes me feel like I actually did something.
Natalie, you forgot we got all the letters. You forgot all the letters.
What letters?
The letter about lot coverage and paving and fracking and there was some more. Yeah.
Investment.
Yeah.
Investment, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you forgot the paragraph about making the staff crazy?
We should have a subcommittee for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I did help draft the climate action plan along with staff. I wrote a big chunk of it.
Yeah, good point.
Are we supposed to, what?
Staff will take it to council and they'll probably just accept the report, I think is what happened, so
Okay.
next month.
Excellent.
Can I see page 1 again if everybody else is finished?
Sure.
I'll read it in more detail at home, but...
May I ask a quick question? Whatever happened to the fracking letter? Did the city get it? Did they accept it, review it?
Another letter, yeah.
Yeah. We need follow-up on all the letters.
Yeah, like the one also about the courtyard
Yep.
issue.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if I have a more recent update, but they were going to direct staff to look at all of the zoning issues in the Brisbane Acres that Ray and Lori had their report.
That big long thing they wrote.
And it was on hold at the end of the year, so I'm not sure if there's an update that it's, at this point it's not agendized, but I think it's something that the council wants.
Can you rattle that a little bit for us? Thank you.
Regarding the link to the video that was produced during the day in the park, Natalie, is it possible for you to send that to us so we can share it with the community on the Residents of Facebook page? I don't think it has been shared with the community. We saw it here in the last meeting, but...
It was shared with the community in the weekly
it was
a blast, but I'll send you another link.
Okay. So maybe I missed that. Maybe I didn't see it in that email. But
Yeah, I don't look at weeklies every week, so...
I find our website really hard to navigate and find when I go to find something I want, I find it really challenging to find what I want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we thought that when it went out in the weekly blast that people read those. A lot of people get those, but...
Could you also send it to us directly?
yeah, that way we can post it to the Residents of Brisbane Facebook page. And
Yeah, that way we're not lost if we happen to miss that week.
yeah.
Thing.
Yeah, I probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments on the review of accomplishments or
Well, I just
addenda?
really like to
thank the staff for helping us accomplish all these things.
Yeah.
We couldn't have done it without you.
Yeah.
Oh, is the PCA on here?
Oh, gosh, yes. It's number 2, San Bruno Mountain Priority Conservation Area.
Okay, good. Whew.
That's great. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for your work on all of these great achievements, and I'm sure the City Council will be pleased to see all the accomplishments of the committee. So thank you all, committee members and staff.
Oh, Whitman Science Fair.
That's on there.
Is it?
Do we see it?
I didn't. No.
Nope.
Oh, no, it's not.
Did we do Whitman Science Fair last year?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, if we could add that.
And somebody else is doing it this year. I don't remember who said they would, but
Maybe it's in the work plan.
It's coming right up.
it is. It's coming up very soon, so whoever is doing it this year needs to.
I can do it if there are no other volunteers.
Yeah, I normally do it, but I feel I need to recuse myself because my son is competing this year, so.
Okay.
Camila will do it.
Unless you want him to win.
I was like, don't tempt it.
The next thing on the agenda is the work plan.
Yep.
And, yeah, we do need to move this along. It's 8:30, and I
Okay.
haven't even been home yet.
Well, let's do the work plan. Let's review of the work plan.
Yeah.
And just a question for staff, are we providing this work plan to the city council, or are we, what happens after we review it, I guess would be the question.
Yes.
Well, we kind of talk
Minutes.
these, this list through with the council liaisons. I don't know if we modified based on their, so we modified it based on that last meeting, and I think it's pretty much ready. We just wanted you guys to have another look at it since we updated it after the liaison meeting.
Is it possible to assign like timeline for each task so that we know in what priority they'll be worked on, at least in terms of timing? For example, a vegetation management plan, is that something that has to be worked on at the beginning of the year versus later in the year, or what's the timing for each one of these? Like some of them, like back to work days, most probably every May, so we know when it will happen, but some of the other things that we need to work on, to be helpful if we have a timeline or...
Well, there's somewhat of a calendar of when some of these things occur, but you're looking at all of your staff resources that are not fully assigned to this committee, so we do the things annually at the time that they come up, but to put a deadline on everything is kind of, after today's meeting, kind of on a new topic. It's challenging to.
Yeah, I guess my question is again, just using vegetation management plan as an example. Is it something that, let's say, we need to, that work will be done by certain contractors which need to get direction or get some assignment by a certain date? That's kind of what I was...
Calendar, we do it every year, and it's generally mostly a staff thing. The contractor will come and talk to us. I forget which time of year.
He just came out a couple months ago.
Yeah, so a few meetings ago, Mark Heath was here, and he highlighted some of the areas that they're going to be working on, as well as the representative from the San Mateo, who also showed us some areas where the management plan was for the county park as well. But yeah, those were highlighted. Was he reviewing the stuff he did last year? We're talking about the stuff he's going to do in the coming year. It was like a mixture of both.
He did last year.
There was more. Yeah, it was more of a review of last year.
Yeah. But there's not a whole lot of work for this committee involved in that usually. So staff and the contractor develop the plan, and we sort of, listen to what they have to say and approve it. And sometimes we'll say, could you, expend a little bit more effort on this or that, which we did last year, I believe.
So what determines, and maybe we don't need to discuss this here, but
There is a calendar that I emailed out to the committee, I think several times, and it basically outlines when we plan certain items and when certain items will occur. So maybe I'll send that out again. But basically, staff kind of brings these items when the time is coming to plan and start the process. Like Habitat Restoration Day, staff puts that on the agenda to plan a month or two before it occurs.
Through the chair, of course.
So there's a couple of things in the minutes from last meeting that I missed that I have questions about. Miller discussed the overlay and ordinance could be pursued.
Are we done with the review of the?
Well, yeah, that's the section minutes that I missed, and how they relate to what this is coming out within the work plan. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What section is that?
Section 7 of the minutes.
Okay.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One, Miller discussed this is in the discussion about the open space plan and the acres, and it's the last line on the page that's printed. It said, Miller discussed an overlay ordinance could be pursued by OSEC, which was included in the memo he wrote to OSEC last year. Staff will resend the memo to OSEC for review. Natalie, were you able to do that? Okay, I need to go through my emails and catch up then. And then there was a place in the minutes where it says, Holstein added the lands acquired with Coastal Conservancy are about 90%, meaning 90% of the lands that were acquired the Coastal Conservancy participated in, I guess. And it says, the burden to create infrastructure is insurmountable to be able to develop the Brisbane acres. That's simply not true anymore.
Yeah, I'm disagreeing.
And
say that.
I really think that we do need to add the review of the open space plan, review and update of the open space plan to the OSEC work plan.
But isn't that what we're just
Yeah,
preparing
so-
the document to ask the
Right.
council to approve?
Right.
So,
But that's, and then,
So currently, the work plan, item 11, consider recommendations to City Council to modify.
Microphone.
Oh.
Currently, item 11, consider recommendations to City Council to modify Brisbane acres zoning regulations with respect to open space and ecology. Is that in any way related to the open space plan, or is that something else?
that's something else. That's where we recommended not allowing interior or fully enclosed courtyards being part of the floor area ratio in regard to lot coverage, et cetera.
Okay, so
Yeah, that's different. And then so that's specifically around development of certain acres.
You know, if we had 12 bullet points, we would actually have one for each month.
Yeah.
So if we just add this one in, we have 12.
so we have formed a subcommittee with the specific objective of making the case to council that Open Space Committee needs to review the open space plan with a view to modifying it. So given that we have this work plan right here in front of us, and that we just went over it with the council liaisons, do we have to approve this now and then separately try to modify it based on this appeal that we're making to the council?
I don't think it's that formal. I think I don't think it's that formal. I think this
Okay.
is just
Things come up.
that we all have an idea that this is the work plan that we discussed and have with council, and if we want changes, we'll just ask for changes. I don't think we have to approve this work plan. We're just,
Okay.
if you
We're just wondering, and Glenn, I think also, it also relates to the fact that there might be additional resources required, and that would require the city council's approval, so it's not just whether we're allowed to talk about it or take action on it or.
No, I know, that's why we have the subcommittee. I was just wondering if we could sort of,
Can we add?
can we add review of open space plan to this, or I just want to get rid of this and finish the meeting?
Yeah, no, and I guess this will, I guess, be a question for staff is, given the fact that the open space plan was originally produced by a consultant and would likely require some additional resources or whatever. Is that something we can add to the work plan as it is, or would you recommend going a different route, like getting the council's agreement to that?
Yeah, we need to get council's agreement to that.
Okay. And that's what the subcommittee is
Yeah.
for.
Yeah, okay.
Natalie?
So I think I was just clarifying that this is your staff's representation of what we came up with the liaisons, and if any of you thought you had a different understanding, we should talk about that to add.
No, this corresponds to my understanding of what we talked about with
mine
them,
too.
so, yeah, no issues there.
Mine too.
So Natalie, this has a slide 1 of 2. Is there a second slide?
Oh,
This wasn't altered from last meeting. This is the same. I just put it in for consistency.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, this is
So
good.
then
Okay.
let's move on to the next item.
excellent. Everybody's all happy. So I guess we move into the staff updates portion of our meeting.
So, to move quickly, we did want to mention on the Peninsula Clean Energy that council is having a study session, and the county is coming to speak to the council about the Peninsula Clean Energy proposed community choice aggregation energy project, and that's on January 26th. Now I'm going from memory. It'll be noticed in the weekly website updates and on the website. What Brisbane will need to do if we want to join, which I believe there's been all positive feedback from the council, is to adopt a resolution and then adopt an ordinance to join a joint powers agreement.
Just one comment on that. The public utilities in California, including PG&E, seem to have mounted up what we might call a counterattack against these community choice aggregation plans, which is what Peninsula Clean Energy is, and they're proposing to attach a whopping fee to everybody's electricity bill to cover the charges of maintaining the grid. And my understanding is that's going to be about $13 a month. So as we go through this whole community choice aggregation thing, people ought to be aware of that, and it probably ought to be brought up at the council meeting as well.
Yeah, that's a great question for the county representative or anyone who's, I don't want to say that I'm the most knowledgeable person on this. I was asked to kind of get this news out in the public. Someone called and contacted me, and I invited them to come to oral communications, come down to our meeting, but we were going to talk a little bit more at length about staff's understanding, but given the time, maybe we'll do that in the next month. But we do want the word to get out to the public that this process is happening, and there's a study session coming up. And
Cool.
Everybody should be aware of these what the utilities want in response to these community choice aggregation plans.
Just a little note on to what you were talking about. I looked into the solar power for the home, and still working on financing on that. But I spoke to PG&E directly about the exact same thing you had, and we had a good laugh about it. Basically, what happens when everybody in the world goes solar? Well, PG&E's not going to sit around twiddle their thumbs and maintain the grid for free.
Right.
I mean, they have employees, they have retirements, they have CEOs making millions of dollars. They have all kinds of things that they have to continue making, and so there's always going to be a fee for something.
They do, and I think it's fair that they should get paid. But the question is how much, and how's that determination going to be made?
Yeah, the amount of money that they've been charging for grid maintenance or whatever, if you have solar or something, is pretty low, but they're really talking about...
They really want to jack it up.
They really want to jack it up. So either they're invalidating their previous statement or they're profiteering now. I'm not sure which.
A little bit of both.
Maybe.
I think that they're with, after the incident in San Bruno, and I think that they are spending a great deal of money having to go back through their infrastructure and spend a lot of money on safety concerns and rebuild an aging infrastructure. And electricity doesn't usually explode and kill a bunch of people and burn a bunch of houses, but it's going to bear the brunt of it because they can, You don't produce solar gas. And so, they're going to try to balance their books in this manner. And it's just a reality of doing business. So
Actually, utilities all over the country are doing this. It's
Yeah.
because they're worried about us not needing them anymore. But just a heads up.
Okay.
Awesome. I guess can we continue with the staff updates?
Sure. So we talked a little bit about open space's role in the Baylands planning process, and I'm sure probably many of you know that the Planning Commission's now in their next step is going to be in deliberations about the environmental impact report and making a land use recommendation. So as this came up, and I think it came out from the council liaisons, we're kind of late in the game to do a presentation to the Planning Commission, but so that was something that the council liaisons brought up, but they also suggested that if council approves a plan, that we're the body that would determine how it got conditioned and how land use how open space and wetlands would be laid out on an approved land use.
Oh.
So that's...
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah.
We would be responsible for what?
We would be asked to make a recommendation to council about how open space and wetlands and trails got laid out if and when a land use plan is determined.
Cover it all with wetlands and trails and open space. Yeah. Okay.
Is that on our work plan?
Well, do we expect that to happen in 2016?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You might just put it on the work plan to be thinking about.
Yeah.
Because if
the plan comes down, completely differently than what was proposed, it could move faster.
Okay.
So you said it's kind of late in the game to make a presentation to the Planning Commission. Does that mean we're not doing it, or does it mean we are doing it?
Well, I suppose if the committee felt strongly about proposing some particular, so the idea was that what could the committee propose to the Planning Commission, or potentially the council if the Planning Commission finishes their deliberations before we had something put together that would be a suggested land use, as opposed to just, I don't think the EIR looked at this or that well enough. It's like the council ultimately decide what land use we want to recommend. So,
do you know we were going through the draft EIR process and there were all these things that we didn't include in our comments because we were going to include in, like testimony?
I wasn't on the...
Yeah, there was a document that was supposed to be sent directly to the Planning Commission, and I followed up with Natalie about that recently because I know they've got some new planning commissioners, and I believe she sent that to them again.
She sent it to planning staff, and they forwarded
the planning
it to their,
staff or to the planning
and then
commission?
forwarded it to their commission.
Yeah, and I was going to ask Gregory to see if he actually got that, because he didn't mention having received it, which I thought was kind of odd.
Pillow talk.
Okay, so we're going to have a roll and looking at that. Okay.
I would like to really make sure that the Planning Commission takes that into account, because we worked long and hard on the draft EIR, and also, with our comments to be submitted, and then all the comments that we wanted to make, and I felt like we were pretty clear that we would really support renewable energy, or sort of the more renewable energy plan but I mean, it seems like we just sort of didn't participate in that process as a group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that brings up a point in that, so I messed up on my, anyway, so during the previous meeting, I had asked for 2 things to be added to the work plan, and I swear to the gods above and below that I saw that in the minutes, but I can't find it now, and it's making me bonkers. But one of them was to continue to work on the, I believe was to continue to work on the FEIR, and that needs to be back in the work plan, because even if we're not presenting anything to the Planning Commission, we need to be able to follow up on some things and present them to council, and that means we need to start putting that together sooner rather than later, because that's going to take some forward thought, and it's going to have to come from the whole committee, so it's going to have to come and go and come and go, and we need to start thinking about it.
Yeah, I think that there's space for us to do that. We didn't have anyone step forward to be on a subcommittee at the last meeting. Oh, they're actually waiting for Michelle to return from vacation, too. Yeah.
Oh, you get
If I remember correctly.
God, I avoid subcommittees like the plague. You mean a subcommittee to what exactly?
Well, I didn't really glean that from when I read the minutes. Maybe I do need to watch the meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do need a subcommittee to start writing a summary or an executive statement of the committee's position to council and the Planning Commission. Does that sound right?
If you were going to be on a subcommittee, that's the one you need to be on, Glenn. I'm sorry. That's the highest and best use of because you are, the... Well, same with me. I mean, I'm just saying.
I'm willing to do it, but of course not by myself.
We have to. Oh, God. We have to.
Yeah. Mike said he'd be willing to do the open space plan, so don't feel like you would leave it empty if you switched. I'm just saying.
Being on two subcommittees.
I know.
What's the other subcommittee on?
I'm on the Climate Action Plan, and I want to stay on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you had said about being over subcommitted, Glenn, so I'm trying to give you an easy out here if you are needing it.
We're looking for a subcommittee member to go over the OSEC's role in the Bayland planning process.
No, it's to kind of codify and express to the council the committee's view of the FEIR and the land use considerations for the Baylands. So it's much more than our role in the future. It's our role in the now.
So how do you envision this? Do you envision it as a statement expressing a preference for renewable energy, or...
That's how I envision it, yeah. Is that how the committee envisions it?
That's not too hard to do.
I think it can include that, but it'll need some supporting arguments based on, things our experience with the DEIR and the FEIR
And the environment.
and the sustainability plan
And everything else that we're doing. I mean,
I think it's actually going to have to be a finely crafted document in the end.
And when would they be due if they're currently deliberating?
Are you envisioning something like a page? Are we talking about, a page, 5 pages, 10 pages? What?
When is the deadline when we need to present it to the Planning Commission?
Well, we already missed it. We missed it.
now it's what we're going to
So-
present to
The council.
Yeah.
But don't we need to know then what the position is for the Planning Commission, or are we doing completely independent work?
Well, really, the Planning Commission will make a recommendation to council, and then council will consider that recommendation and whatever information they consider. So the Planning Commission is not making any final decision about the land use.
Right.
So it's basically just a supporting document, maybe laying out our major criticisms of the two main plans and expressing our preference for one of them. So I don't know, I'm thinking maybe a letter even?
I
I sure don't want to go through the whole DEIR again.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and that's the question, if we have to review a 900-page document to create one page.
I think the other groups that presented information to the Planning Commission did it as a presentation. They might have been asked for their backup documentation at the time by the Planning Commission, but...
Well, like a PowerPoint or something?
I think it was a verbal presentation. I don't...
Okay.
I guess
The Planning Commission asks for everything in writing as well.
What were the other groups that presented to the planning
there was
commission?
Krebel and Mountain Watch and... Help me, anyone else
Mountain
watch
Watch
this?
didn't present.
Yes, they did. The train, train museum, and the
Brisbane Fun Center.
The BBK.
BBK, yeah.
I think a good starting point would be to see at least what Mountain Watch has presented, because I think we're not even familiar with that.
Yeah, that was 1 or 2 sessions back in the Planning Commission meeting. You can watch the video. It's up on the... I highly recommend it because it's really interesting the last couple... the whole Planning Commission thing has been worth following.
Jump in.
Go ahead.
As the primary thing is deciding the land use, and then the EIR is the secondary. Is the EIR sufficient for the land use that's decided? Does more decided or doesn't? So it's not a matter of. It seems like it's not a matter of just picking apart the EIR, but it's a matter of making a recommendation for land use and addressing whether the EIR did sufficiently look at that land use and the environmental impacts associated with it.
I think we could do that in a page or two. That's my take on it.
What do you think, Michelle?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible. It really, at this point, we're giving our opinion.
Yeah, right.
Our informed opinion.
Yeah. I think we need to refer to the sustainability plan to back it up. And I feel like it's going to be just the way you write, Glenn. I think it'll be more than a page or two. But
Well, my suggestion is you write it and I cut it down.
okay.
Jump to the chase.
Yeah, I can work on that if that's all it is.
I really think that we need to make a statement directly to the council, especially
That's
since,
fine.
That's fine. I mean, we did a lot.
I was just trying to figure out what we were going to do since we did miss, we missed our main chance at the Planning Commission. I mean, I know several of us went to individual meetings and expressed our individual opinions, but we missed our chance as a committee to do it.
But we didn't miss it to express that opinion to the committee, or to the council.
No, so that's what we're going to do.
Paul,
We're gonna do.
Did you have something you wanted to? Yes.
Paul Buscal, Brisbane resident. So, I've made comments over the years about a handful of words that I've found in these documents, and some of you have heard this before, but if you haven't heard it, you need to be aware of it. And I alluded to the fact this evening that the word open space just means public property.
Right.
So while we're looking at habitat, it doesn't necessarily mean that the 25% that's in our general plan of the Baylands is supposed to be put into open space / open areas. Now says open space and or open areas, like I said earlier. So, what percentage is actually going to be open space? And then one of the other things that I'm concerned with, and you should be aware of, is that every chapter for every instance in the draft environmental impact report, the final impact report, states at the very end of every chapter that mitigating measures will be done when feasible.
Yeah.
And at the last meeting, I questioned that who's going to determine if it was feasible or not.
Yeah.
So while this document is good, and a lot of work has gone into it, like other areas of concerns in Brisbane, there are loopholes or allowances for mitigating measures to be looked at from a feasibility standpoint, and I know there's a whole couple of handfuls of reasons why it couldn't be feasible. So,
Including economic.
well, yeah. So I just wanted to share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments on the staff updates regarding the OSEC role for the Bisbee planning process, or in the interest of time, since it's 9 o'clock, can we move forward?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Since I've agreed to help do this, what's the timeline roughly, do you think? How long do we have to get this done?
Well, I don't want to speculate on how long it's going to take the planning commission, but I'm sure we have
Couple months, I would think.
Yes.
Planning commission.
Okay, so it's more than weeks.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
I think we can
We
safely
don't
say
have to get
that.
it done before Christmas.
Very funny.
I'm here all week. Don't forget to tip your bartender and try to permit. Okay.
So I have one question, and I don't want it answered right now in the name of time. But I keep hearing this phrase, recommended land use, and I want to know how that differs from a plan. So don't answer right now, because we're supposed to decide on the recommended land use, and that phrase sounds almost like a zoning thing, but it's not. But it's not a specific plan. One of the developer, it doesn't have to be one of the developer plans either. So I want that term defined before our next meeting.
Well, from what
I don't want to do it now.
Plan. Okay.
I want to do it.
If you have the info now,
Okay,
please
fine.
provide it.
From what I've got from planning staff, the general plan doesn't allow the land use that's proposed. So
Correct.
the developer would be required to propose a specific plan. That would be the end product, is that some specific plan would be approved that would allow some, whatever development is approved.
But we still have to vote on whether or not we're going to modify the plan.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, because they've already proposed a change to the general plan. I don't know that they're going to... Several times, and in many aspects. So why did we go through all of this if their proposals are completely invalid? I don't understand.
Well, I think the specific plan is what would amend the general plan. But
Okay.
And be aware that there's nothing in the law that says the citizens of Brisbane get to vote on a change in the general plan.
Okay.
Just because we did that in 1994, it doesn't mean that it's legislated that we get to do it again. And we want to make sure that we do get to do that again.
There isn't a citizen in this town that doesn't think they're going to have a say in the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, well...
So I still don't understand what a recommended land use is. Is that a specific plan? Is that a... I don't understand that phrase. I just don't understand that phrase.
Can staff maybe provide a little more context around the definition of that term for the next meeting, so that we can provide more clarity and move on with the staff updates?
Yeah, that was what
It seems to me essentially what we're saying is that by making a statement, we're agreeing that we should be developing the land in such a manner.
Yeah.
Whereas in fact, as a citizen-based board, most citizens don't want to see that developed in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, I don't know if that's true. But yeah, I would like something in writing that I can refer to and hold on to, so.
Websites for community exchange.
Yeah,
programs.
that sounds great.
We were asked in previous meetings about posting Free Cycle and Craigslist links onto the city website. And in general, community members don't use the city website for those purposes, so possibly Facebook or Nextdoor would be better places to post links like that.
Okay.
Community garden space?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the determination was made not to add it to the OSEC library page? Because that's, I think, where we were talking about putting it.
The websites for community exchange
Change items, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and the city, I think, is reluctant to
Okay.
to
So,
Facebook
onwards.
Craigslist and
Community garden space.
At this point, we've checked in with staff, and if we want to recommend and second community garden, the Park and Recreation Commission would take our recommendation and then evaluate it with respect to other things that they're working on and other uses of space. And this site that we've highlighted is the only flat site that the city owns that's open and available that we know of, and we've talked about this at the last meeting, that it's not close to all of the residences in Brisbane. There could be parking out there. I know that's not optimal, but I think we're looking for, and we could put this on next month's agenda if we want to talk about it in
That'd be great. Let's
more at length.
let's discuss it in next meeting.
It's west of Dolby.
Great. Thanks for getting that.
Climate-related facts?
She did it.
Okay.
So Karen and I discussed that these could potentially be added in the weekly Friday blasts.
So we heard back that they can definitely put them in the weekly blast. They weren't comfortable putting it as a heading, but I did ask if we get out of the drought, if we could have that spot on the homepage, and so that's being considered. The drought alert.
Mm-hmm.
So they won't use it, they won't put it as a heading?
Sorry.
They weren't so inclined to do that.
Are we talking about a heading on the homepage of the city website or a heading within the newsletter?
We were asking
Blast.
for, the Friday blast.
Okay.
That was the idea that the committee came up with. So that was my counter proposal, was if we don't need the drought to be on the homepage of the city website, could we put one of the climate facts there?
So they won't put it on the
They'll
Friday
put it
blast at
in.
all?
No, they'll put it in,
Okay.
definitely. And they said they're glad to combine it if there's anything that is another announcement related to the climate action plan that we need to do, or that's happening.
So they'll list it with the other,
Yeah, it'll have a listing, and then it's also on the news feed of the website. Anything that's blasted there is linked elsewhere on the website. So, let me see what that looks like now that we have a few to start with.
Great.
they're fairly wordy. I did that because I felt some things needed explanation rather than just firing facts at people. So if the committee would take a quick look and see if they think they're too wordy, that would be helpful.
But not right now, but in the next, between now and the next, or when?
I think you can safely put the first one on there. It's one of the less wordy ones, but. So I explained, for example, why a gallon of gasoline produces almost 20 pounds of CO2, because that's one of the first questions people ask is, wait a minute, that's more than the gasoline weighs. Yes, it is. It's because it combines with oxygen in the air. So I explained that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Thank you, Glenn. This looks really great.
Hope somebody reads it.
I hope so too.
I think we missed the slide, I think. No, the Brisbane Acres, there was a Brisbane Acres map.
Well, I think we've kind of talked through this issue.
Sorry, I was skipping ahead. Environmentally preferred.
Purchasing
And
policy.
this, I think we wanted to see, we'll probably work on it with the, we know that, I guess we talked about it at a couple meetings, and there was a list Natalie put together of things that we do purchase, but it might be a good thing for the subcommittee to kind of.
Yeah, thank you for sending that to me, Natalie, and I will work on it, but I can't take on anything until after Christmas, so I'm glad I have it in advance.
Another one.
Okay.
Want to join?
Is this climate action plan subcommittee?
Yeah.
Did you send it to me too?
Well, this is the environmentally preferred purchasing policy, so I don't know.
I have a question on this one, because this is just purchasing policy for the city hall. It doesn't really impact the rest of the community. Do we really need a subcommittee of it for it?
We talked about this at a prior meeting, and
Yeah.
the OSEC was willing to look at what is purchased and recommend more environmentally friendly purchases. So.
Did we decide on a subcommittee last time? I'm sorry, I can't remember.
Oh, so my question was, could the climate action plan subcommittee also work on this?
I remember it being a subcommittee of one.
Yeah, I think it was. I mean, I'd love to have somebody like Mike or someone else that I can bounce things off of, but at this point, I think I'm the only person who's volunteered to work on it. And I we could sort of dump it on the climate action plan subcommittee, because it really is a different thing.
I just kind of feel like in the grand scheme of things, it's small potatoes.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's important, but it's not, I mean, we've got some other really, kind of.
We've got some bigger things going on, but I don't want to dump it either.
Table it until next meeting and see what the appetite is for running these subcommittees.
And then I think Brisbane Acres Open Space Plan Preservation Concern, we've beat that one to death tonight.
I think we've covered that.
Natalie, did you have a map that went along with that? I'm sorry.
That's,
Is that the same map we've been looking at? I apologize. I just saw you flip through.
And the next meeting date is?
At the beginning of the meeting, I said I have a few things from the minutes, and I said we would do them under
Absolutely.
staff updates.
Yes, please.
I just want to mention I did not work any further on the sustainability education workshops. Community gardens we're punting to next time. Did the email get circulated concerning sea level rise to the community? That did get out? Okay, because I didn't see that. Was it on the Friday blast, or?
it was one
Okay.
a while back.
Well, maybe we should put it on more than once. I mean, I just think anything we put on there, in general, should go up twice, because not everybody reads every
It
week.
would be good to have somebody from Brisbane on that.
Yes.
I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm not doing it either, so can we put it up again?
Or if you guys know anyone that you could reach out to that you might.
Yeah, and I don't think I saw that particular one, so if you could maybe send me to the committee, then maybe some of us could repost it to Facebook, so that people who don't get the blast or don't pay attention then might see it there.
Sorry, what are we talking about? I apologize.
Sea level rise vulnerability assessment. San Mateo County.
The county was looking for community members to be on a committee to kind of steer outreach about what they're doing.
Yeah, let's just hit that one back over there again. San Mateo County Energy Watch Small Business Outreach, what's happening with that? Anything?
We didn't get an update this month.
Okay. Can we put that on the staff updates for next month?
Sure.
Let us know, and I assume there hasn't been anything from PG&E either?
An email was sent out.
Okay.
45 acres.
I didn't do that thing. That's my problem. Need to do some more outreach concerning the cap. Oh yeah, the video, we already talked about that. We're going to resend out the link
I just found
to the committee.
what is it? Open for sale. Open space.
Okay, that's it.
All right. Anybody have anything else they'd like to add? Paula, got anything?
When's the next meeting date? Thank you,
Well, thank you so much for all the work you do to keep the environment in Brisbane beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. 20th is a Wednesday. Is
Yeah,
that
just a point of clarification, we wanted to switch back to Wednesdays. We had,
I just signed up for class on Wednesday because I didn't know that. I have classes on Mondays and Wednesdays now.
I may not be able to come on Tuesday because we had a big schedule glitch and I may have to teach a Tuesday night class.
Shoot.
well, yeah, when we switched to Tuesday, we were accommodating Natalie's school schedule, and
Yeah. And I didn't realize we were switching back in January, so now I'm taking a class on Wednesday.
How long is your class?
At Monday and Wednesday.
I wonder if we could maybe just go ahead for January. I won't be in school till the end of January, and I'm probably not going to know about this class until very late, like right before school starts. So
About a different date, like Thursday.
January.
Tuesday doesn't work for me.
Thursday is bad because Planning Commission and Council.
And council, so Thursday's
January Tuesday would work for me.
Okay, well, let's do that for now and then figure out what our problems look like for
I'm
February.
going to do the third
19th?
Tuesday.
Tuesday the 19th? Or which Tuesday?
Is the 19th
That
the
sounds
third?
about right.
Okay.
The 19th is the third Tuesday.
It's right after the holiday. Martin Luther King.
What's the date?
I think.
The next date,
More.
just to
Yeah, it'll
confirm?
be the 19th.
Perfect.
Yeah, it does look.
Anybody have anything else to add?
No, sorry.
Do I have a motion for, oh, there's that map again.
So we decided on, I'm sorry, I missed that.
Tuesday the 19th.
Tuesday the 19th.
Yeah.
Are you going to find out?
I don't know when I'll find out. This is one of those things, we don't have somebody to teach this class. We're looking.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll give you a motion.
I
I'll
second.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.
You can your own.
What we got was Camilla, thing, there's 45 acres of Brisbane for sale. Underwater. And it's like